Hi there, welcome to Kneppy Invest, and welcome to another technical update video where we look at lots and lots of charts, indices, commodities, crypto, bonds, and currency, and also some individual companies' charts. Now, when we get to the individual company charts portion of the video, I have been focusing on looking at weekly timeframes and volume. And in my opinion, volume is really important. And I would say that quite a few people, quite a few, we'll say traders, sort of ignore volume, but volume can tell you a lot. And what I'm looking for is a significant increase in volume over a certain period of time. And I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about when we get to that part of the video. Volume is really important. And what I've seen over time is when there's very little interest in a company, and you can tell there's very little interest in the company in the overall market when there's very little volume. And if that does happen, typically the share price will just drift lower and lower. And then eventually, at some point in time, there will be increased interest. It could be valuation, it could be a news announcement, something like that, that will cause the market to become a little bit more interested in a company. And we'll see what that looks like when we get to that part of the video. But before then, let's turn our attention to the XJO. And we had a good week. It was going to come after 4 down weeks in a row. Today or this week was really good, up 2.35%. Now, just by looking at this weekly chart, it is quite obvious that the XJO has finished right on a resistance level, very near a resistance level. So let's turn attention to the daily chart. So the XJO broke below 8,600 a few weeks ago and has remained below that level over that period of time. So we're talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 trading days. Now, if we focus in on what's happened in the last few days, the XJO has tried to get above 8,600. And when I say 8,600, I'm talking about, if you want an exact number, it's around about 8,630. So XJO finished at 8,640, but I consider this more of a zone, this resistance zone, not a resistance, an exact price point or whatever you want to call it. So I would never consider resistance or support as one exact number. I believe it's more of a zone. Anyway, so it is struggling, has struggled the last 2 days to get above that area. You can just see it, like a doji on the last day, actually only down 0.04. So the way I look at dojis is there's like a fight between the bears and the bulls, and it's an even fight. During most of the week, the bulls were winning. Much more bullish sentiment in the markets in the past week, and sentiment can change fairly quickly. Now, what's going to happen over the next few days is going to be very important. Now, I am fairly bullish on what's going to happen on Monday because Wall Street had a pretty good day on a Friday. I think it was a shortened day, if I remember correctly. I could be a little bit wrong there. And I would say volume would have been quite a bit lower on Black Friday just because most people go away, have family Thanksgivings, and Friday tends to be sort of a quasi day off for a lot of people. Not everyone, but for a lot of people, they do have Friday off. So, so even though it was an okay day on Wall Street, I'm assuming they did have trading that day. I am assuming. I could be wrong, but I am assuming they did. I don't know why they would have. Yeah, they did. But I do remember seeing somewhere where the trading day finished. Yeah, it finished much earlier. So according to TradingView, it finished about 4 a.m. Brisbane time. So it's a few hours before they usually trade. Nice little bull run. Nice little bullish end to the trading day there. So NDQ up a fair bit. So I do think that we'll have a pretty good day on the Australian market tomorrow on Monday, and we might see it get above that resistance level, but it needs to stay above there over a few days. I need confirmation. So a nice little a nice week, but we expected a bounce. I would have said the XJO was oversold, and typically when something is oversold, you expect a bounce. But the question becomes: is this a dead cat bounce, or was this just a little bit of a dip in the overall market? I'm sort of veering towards this was just a little bit of a dip, and now we're going to see the XJO keep on going up. I can be completely wrong because it's the future. And a lot of times we are wrong when it comes to the future. It's all about probability. What is a probability we keep going up? Well, I'd say it's more than 50%. How much more or how much greater than 50%? I don't know. Anyway, so that's the important week for XJO, important few days, I'd even say, for the XJO over the next Monday and Tuesday. Otherwise, let's have a look at the XSO, up 0.83% on, what's that day? Friday. Would have been a really good week as well. In fact, a spectacular week for small caps, up 5.77%. that's a definition of a really bullish week. So definitely sentiment has shifted in small caps. So last few weeks, say last 3 or 4, maybe even 5 weeks, we have seen a little bit of selling, maybe a bit of rotation from the more risky assets, more caps, into more defensive, and that sort of turned around. So everyone's now rotating back into more risky assets. And also, if we have a look at the daily chart, there was a bit of a downtrend, not a very long downtrend. We'd say this is a short-term downtrend, portrayed by this sloping downward line, and it broke through that on Friday. It sort of tried to break through that on Thursday, and then we had a nice session on Friday. In fact, every single day was up for the XSO. Beautiful, beautiful chart for the XSO. Onto the XTL. Finished in the red, down 0.33%. Maybe this is because, again, a bit of movement from defensive, the blue chips, and a lot of people believe blue chips safe. And maybe they're going towards the more risky assets. Again, I've said that. Small caps, maybe mining, maybe stuff like that. This chart, if we focus on the daily chart, is not that exciting. So a bit of a drop from the highs. And I would have said this might have been oversold, and we haven't really seen much of a bounce. In fact, fairly small bounce at that. It was up 1.29% for the week, but yeah, a little bit off from the highs as well. Yeah, which we did see on Thursday's session. So yeah, not my favorite chart, this one. A little bit more weakness in the ASX 20. And I'm thinking that's because of the banks. So this bit of weakness in the ASX 20 more than likely is because of the banks, but I could be mistaken. So not my favorite chart. In fact, if I had to rank these 3 indices at this point in time, XSO is my favorite, followed the XJL, and XTL is coming last. What about the XTX? I'll go back to the weekly chart just to see what happened. A nice end to the week, up 0.58%, and the XTX up 4.98% for the week. So a nice little bounce as well. Now, the last time we saw the XTX down a fair few weeks in a row, this was back in March. We saw a nice bounce on that week of the 7th of April, and then the bounce just kept going. Look at that. It was up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 weeks in a row. So 2 months after the lows in April, the market the XTX just kept on going up. Will we see this again? We don't know. History doesn't repeat, but often does rhyme. We just don't know at this point in time. It might, but wait and see. Wait and see. So a really good week for tech, not surprisingly, because we'll have a look at Nasdaq in a second, and we can see a nice little possible V-shaped recovery, and XTX was up the whole week. Yeah, except maybe not. It's up 0.07% on Wednesday. But yeah, really good week for tech. So maybe the bottom is in. Maybe, just maybe. We just don't know. Maybe it's like what we saw back in March, early March. There was a big drop in the XTX. There was a little bounce, and there was another massive drop. So maybe it's like that. Maybe. Don't know. By the way, if we go to XTL, what was that like? Yeah, that was a nice little rally as well. XSO. Yeah, and then there was a big drop. So you can definitely see that was a bit of a little bit of a rally, dead cat bounce back in March. Will we see the same again? Who knows? Who knows at this point in time? Banks. Yes, banks down 1.03% on Friday. And if we have a look at the weekly chart, this is going to be down. It's negative. So down big 2 weeks in a row. And then we get to last week, down 0.28%. So not a lot of strength in the banks, which is understandable. Trying to remember what happened during the week with banks. I do remember was it Bendigo released their fraud thing last week? Was that Bendigo? Yeah, Bendigo and Adelaide Bank released something either last week or the week before. I can't remember if it was this week. Anyway, so not a lot of strength in the banks. And you know my opinion of the banks. And if you have a look at the daily chart, it's not a good look. So down big, look at that massive drop over a 6 or 7 day period. And typically if that happens, it's going to be oversold. And you can actually check this, by the way. Let's just have a look. RSI. You can sort of tell if something's oversold. Yeah, it was oversold. Yeah, exactly right. It was oversold on the last big down day on the 19th of November. It's remained a little bit oversold, but not completely. But, you know, when you do see it oversold, it wouldn't be surprising to see a bounce. And we didn't see that really, going to get rid of RSI. We didn't really see that for the banks. It just went down a lot and then sideways. And that tells me that there wasn't a lot of buying. There wasn't enough interest in the banks. even though the price of the banks had dropped a lot. So typically, if you do see something drop a fair bit over a short period of time, there will be a bit of interest. There should be a bit of interest in the market because there's a lot of investors have recency bias. So if they see something drop a fair bit in price, they'll go, oh, this was such and such a price only last week. Now it's such and such. It must be cheap. Just because the share price has dropped, it must be cheap. They disregard the reasons why it might have dropped. Anyway, so we haven't seen that bounce. So this tells me there hasn't been a lot of interest in the banks, even with the price of the banks dropping over the past few weeks. And that's actually quite negative. Back to the weekly chart. Is it looking bad? Nah, still looking bad. You can see this massive run up in the banks since the end of 2023. And the banks haven't grown. They've grown very little. They've grown at the rate of inflation. What about mining? We'll stay with the weekly. Oh, and the volatility mining keeps on going. 3 really volatile weeks in a row. 2 down weeks, 2 up weeks. So down 2.7, up 3.9, down 4.4, up 5.2. And the volatility actually is increasing. The percentage change keeps on going up, which means next week or this week, it should be down 6.3%. Anyway, so a lot of volatility in the mining. I don't mind this. I don't mind this because mining had a really good period. And this volatility is telling me that, well, day traders are loving it. This is just telling me that, particularly because we haven't seen a significant drop in mining, that there would be bears out there saying, oh, it's risen a lot, so I'm going to be bearish, but there's still a lot of bulls out there. And I think what's happening in the last 4 weeks is there's being a fight between the bears and the bulls, and really no one's winning. 1 week, it's like a boxing match between 2 equal fighters, maybe Muhammad Ali and Mike Tyson. Who knows? They'd probably never. Oh no, yeah, definitely wouldn't have fighting. Wouldn't have fought each other, but I can't think of many fighters. The Rock versus John, what's his name? John Cena. Maybe they're equal. And they're so equal that one round, one fighter's on top, the next round, the other fighter's on top, and it's just vice versa. That's what's been happening with mining over the last 4 weeks. I tend to favor the bulls in the long run. Maybe we'll say the medium run. So I think if this breaks out above 6,900, that would be fairly bullish for the mining sector. So that's all I have for the Australian indices. My favorite index, I still like mining. It's not far from the recent tops. I do like mining. I like the bounces in the XSO, XTX, and my least favorite, definitely XTL and the banking sector. A lot of weakness in banks still. That could turn in the following week. Now onto some international indices, starting off with not the Nasdaq. We'll start off with the New Zealand NZX 50, up 0.42. This is the weekly chart. And it's struggling to get outside or above this purple box. In fact, the NZX 50 did get to a long-term high, if not a record high, during the week. But then it pulled lower. And you can see that in the what do you call it, the shadows. And we would have seen the top during the week, maybe on Wednesday or Thursday. Let's confirm that with the daily chart. So on Wednesday, the New Zealand market had a pretty good day, up 0.61%, but there was a bit of selling. So we can see that just in the one-day candlestick, there was a long shadow above the main body. And the New Zealand market remains in this purple box, which is an important zone. And the reason it's important, you can see whenever the NZX 50 has got into this purple box, going back to December 2020, we're talking about 5 years ago, whenever it has gone into this purple box over the last 5 years, it has struggled to get above it. We're talking about 3 times. So fourth time lucky maybe, but it is struggling right now. I don't mind this chart at all. And if it does break above 13,600, this would be a really good move for New Zealand. Go New Zealand. Okay, now on to USA. We'll stay with the weekly chart. A really good week. So Nasdaq up 4.93%. Nice little rebound. Now, it was down 3 weeks in a row. It was not bearish. There was no bear market or anything like that, even though there's some people saying we're in a bear. Well, maybe they weren't saying it, but maybe they were implying we were moving into a bear market. But when you look at this chart, it's a nice chart. And you see these little pullbacks every so often. On occasion, it's just a 1 week pullback, 3 week pullback. It's nothing that bad. In fact, 1 week was only down 0.21%. And it's not far off the all-time highs. So nothing to be worried about. No reason to be all in cash. No reason to be selling all your shares. I still believe Padley's all in cash right now. There's no reason why they've gone out of cash because they think it's significantly overvalued. I'm not sure about that. I think there's a little bit more, too much a lot of people are saying the market is really overvalued without giving any context. They're just saying it. They're just saying it's overvalued. A lot of the tech companies are significantly overvalued, but there's an argument that with the growth these companies are experiencing, maybe they're not that overvalued. Maybe Palantir is, maybe. But there's not a lot of significant evidence. Now, I have seen people use the P/E ratio historically. Well, if you look at the P/E ratio, it's really expensive. But if you go back through history and have a look at the biggest companies over the last 100 years, they're not really those sort of companies that are growing at a great rate. In fact, I'd say a lot of the bigger companies through history, once they become really big, stop growing and go backwards. We're not seeing that with our market. So you can't really compare right now to what we have seen in the past because it's a completely different market. And the biggest companies in the world right now are leading the AI charge, the automation charge, the AI charge. You can't really say that in the past. Like even during the internet boom, whatever you call that, the biggest companies in the world really weren't leading that charge. It was the smaller companies that were leading that charge. And they're the ones that became big now, or bigger now anyway. So Nasdaq, no reason to be bearish here. Not bullish either because it's well above the 200-week moving average. That's when I become a little bit more interested. I have not much interest in buying or adding to my positions in America because I don't see significant value, but I don't think it's significantly overvalued either. Dow Jones, I think this is the equal weighted. Sometimes do have a look at the equal weighted, but there's not much different. There's not much different. And the equal weighted had a pretty good week as well, up 3.77%. But you can just see if you compare the Nasdaq 100 to the equal weighted, there's not a huge difference. Subtle differences. Dow Jones up 0.61% on Friday. And the Dow Jones is near all-time highs. It's very close to all-time highs. So again, nothing bad about this chart. So all that bearishness, remember 2 weeks ago or last week this time, there's so much bearishness out there. And at this point in time, there's no reason to be bearish until I get proof. But I was, when it came to the XJ, I was or did become a little bit more bearish just because it did fall through this resistance or this support area. But we've had the bounce. But when it comes to America, I haven't even thought about selling any of my positions because, yeah, there's no reason to even be thinking about it right now. And look, a really good week, up 5 days in a row for the Dow Jones. It does look like it, yep. Russell 2000, small caps, I'm assuming small caps had a pretty good week. Weekly, yeah, really good week for small caps over there. Another sign, up 5.52%. So another good sign that maybe there's been a little bit more, what do you call it, risk on. People willing to take a little bit more risk on because all this fear about the markets melting down, bubble bursting, I think those fears have been allayed to a certain extent. So people are piling back into smaller companies, that sort of thing. And not far off from all-time highs either. And if we have another good week, and daily chart for the Russell 2000, yeah. Now this, it does look like it's the rise has been petering out. So really good day on that was Friday last week. So I started Friday. Of course, we only had 4 trading days. Up 2.8. Then 1.89, then 2.14, then 0.82, and then 0.58. So it does look like the rise is starting to become less significant, and it's getting very close to the previous tops. Now, if you're very, very extremely bearish, maybe now's the time to sell. Maybe. No, if you're really, really bearish, maybe. Okay, so don't bother. There's no need to look at the futures. They're not trading just yet. Now onto some international indices, looking at the Nikkei. And they had a good end to the week. Well, 0.18%. Is that considered good? Let's go to the weekly chart first. So a couple of down weeks and then up 3.35%. This is a case or an EDC where I wouldn't be surprised to see it fall a little bit more because the run for the Nikkei has been tremendous over the past 5 or 6 months. And would this be considered a dip that I would say is really healthy? Yes, maybe, but I think it'd be even healthier if it goes sideways. I'd like to see it go sideways. That'd be really good. I actually do prefer something going sideways after this sort of run instead of going down because I think that shows there's a little bit more strength. And the reason I'd say there's a little bit more strength is because when you see something go sideways, it's just like supply and demand. Supply and demand are sort of equal, so there's enough buyers out there to meet the supply. But if you do see it go down, there's a little bit more supply than demand, which shows there's not as much strength in this move in the Nikkei. So it remains to be seen which way it goes from here. Maybe it keeps on going up. But a little bit of a dip over the last few weeks, which is understandable. But again, another nice looking indice. beautiful. Japan's looking good. I don't have any Japanese holdings in my super, which is something I probably should think about. Look for some value. Hang Seng, not as good as Nikkei. It was up for the week, but it was after a big down week, down 5.1%, up 2.53%. It's remaining above 25,000, which is important for this particular index because that's the support level now. But I'd need to see it go back up. It looks like there's been a fair bit of volatility recently as well, the last 2 or 3 months. On the daily chart, when I look at the daily chart, I'm seeing potential for sort of a sideways channel. And what I could do is just put a line right there. And if this keeps on going, trading in between 25,000 and about 27,000, if it keeps doing this, this would confirm we're in a sideways channel, which is sort of like a sideways movement. Just like I was talking about Nikkei. It doesn't mean really, it's not a negative thing. It's just taking a breather. That's another way to look at it. It's just taking a breather. We've seen that with gold quite a few times over the last few years. DAX, I was a little bit more negative on the DAX. Let's see how the DAX did go. Up, and this one is trading in a channel. That's right, trading in a channel. I remember that now. Down 3.3% last week, up 3.23%. So it has bounced off the bottom of the channel. So if we go to the daily chart, yeah, bounced beautifully off the bottom of the trading channel on Friday. Beautiful bounce there, and it continued through the rest of the week. Looks like this particular indice, so German market was closed on Monday. They had a public holiday on Monday. German public holiday Monday. Was it 25th of February? No, we're not in February. It's November. Was that the day? Wait there. Did I have the wrong day? Oh, the 24th. 24th. I'm sorry. 24th. Let's see what it was. Day of prayer and repentance. Not a public holiday. No, okay. No trading on DAX. Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. So why is there nothing showing on... It goes from Friday 21st to Tuesday 25th. There's nothing on Monday. Is that just a glitch in trading view? Or I don't know. Why was there no trading on DAX on? Sorry, when I become curious about something, I just keep on going. DAX keeps... Oh, I put DAX. Ah, nothing. Okay, I'm going to give up. Okay, let's go back. If you do know, I'd love to know why there was no trading on DAX on Monday, the 24th of November. What about FTSE? Let's have a look at the FTSE. Go back to the weekly chart. And a pretty good week for the FTSE, up 1.9%. I do prefer the FTSE right now over the DAX. It's still in a beautiful uptrend. The record high for the FTSE was a couple of weeks ago. And if you have a look at the daily chart, we saw a little bit of a dip, and now it's going back up. So, and again, let's see if this was traded on Monday. Yeah, they had Monday trading. And a pretty good week for the FTSE. So no reason to complain, no reason to be bearish about any of these indices right now. The most bearish one I've seen is probably the XGO, just because it fell through a support level. So funnily enough, you might be a little bit more bearish about the Australian markets than any of these that I'm looking at. And Toronto is the same. In fact, Toronto got to an all-time high during the week. What's happening? What a week for Toronto. The TSX up 4.05% for the week. I have equated and compared the TSX to the ASX, but maybe you can't anymore because this is completely opposite. They're going gangbusters. We're not really. And a beautiful breakout out of a sort of a short trading channel. And that breakout happened on a Tuesday. I'm pretty sure they have trading on Thursday, yeah, because they have no Thanksgiving. This is probably my favorite chart because it's at a record high and it looks really good, just broken out. TSX, my Canadian friends, even though probably none of you are watching this, because you have no reason to, you're my favorite chart. Okay, of all the indices. Now on to commodities. And the first thing I see is that silver is up 6.63%. Does this mean silver's going to have a really good day on Monday? Well, it all depends when the silver prices increased. We'll start off with gold. I'm getting ahead of myself. Start off with gold. We'll go to the weekly chart. And you can't be anything other than bullish when it comes to gold. I did see someone say, who was it? There was a podcast I was listening to. I listen to so many podcasts, sometimes I forget who said what, but someone said there's a, what was it? It's time to be bearish on gold because all the central banks are buying gold. And back in the early 2000s, when gold prices reached the bottom, that's when all the central banks were selling the gold. So he's saying you should be contrarian when it comes to gold because all the central banks are buying. But maybe one of the reasons why gold is like going like gangbusters is because central banks are buying. And then I was thinking, eventually they will stop buying. You would think, and maybe that will be the top. I have no idea. But there's no reason to be even thinking about selling gold right now because I would assume there would have been people selling gold back a year ago when the price was at just above 2,600 and you've missed a massive rise. I think a lot of mistakes investors make is selling too soon. And I even seen professional investors do this. And a great example of that was Stealth Group. I was in this professional investor group for a while, and a lot of people owned Stealth Group, and they all sold way too early. And I wanted to say something, but I didn't. Why are you selling? The chart looks beautiful. And it was always, I didn't say that, but a lot of the reasons they were selling was overvalued. I just wish they would learn technical analysis, but I would say most of them think technical analysis is BS, and I think that's wrong. I think you need to be well-rounded when it comes to investing. By the way, I'll just show you that chart for those who don't know. So Stealth Group. So yeah, so I would have been seeing people sell back in late 2023. There was a bit of a run up in Stealth Group. So I bought it 15.5 cents. And one of the reasons I like this investor group, well, I'm no longer a member, is because a lot of them were concentrated on small caps, profitable smaller caps, and Stealth Group was one of those. And then Stealth Group went on a run. In fact, the share price doubled over about looks like a year period. And a lot of them were starting to sell when it got above 30 cents. And they can just continue to sell. And then I left the group sometime in early last year, I think. And the share price just keeps on going up. And they've missed massive returns because they sold way too early because it was overvalued. Anyway, lesson learned. I hope, I can almost guarantee you, none of them have thought about that decision. They thought it was the right decision because it was overvalued. But I almost guarantee you, none of them really thought about it. They all thought, or maybe they regret it. Why did I sell? I don't know. Anyway, I've left that group. Anyway, go back to gold. And yeah, there's a daily chart, and it's a beautiful chart. Remember that big down day on the 21st of October? I was listening to another podcast, and they mentioned that. They never mentioned gold. And when gold fell that day, they sort of mentioned it. And funny enough, these people always complain that the market doesn't mention when the market is, or the media doesn't mention when the market is up significantly. They only mention it when the market is down. They always complain about that. And they did the exact same thing about gold. They never mentioned gold, drop it big in one day, and they started mentioning, oh, gold fell a lot, oh, gold. And I found that a little bit hypocritical. A little bit. I won't say who it was, but anyway. So let's just go back. In fact, I'm going to put these moving averages. It's a beautiful chart. In fact, it's been a beautiful chart since really the breakout. I'm going to say the breakout was March 2024, and the breakout, the reason I say that is there was a bit of resistance. I still remember this. You can see this resistance of gold at about 2,100, or just below that. It got to that level about 4 times, actually 5 times. And what you want to do is see it break above that level. You can see on the 4th of December, and I remember this day as well, 2023, it tried to get above this level once on that day and then fell away. Still remember that happening. Oh, gold's breaking out. No, it's not. All happened in one day. It got very close to breaking out again towards the end of December 2023, fell away again. And then the breakout happened, a beautiful breakout. The 4th of March, that was really the breakout. And then we had confirmation the next day. Beautiful breakout for gold. And it's been, you'd have to be bullish ever since then. I just wish I bought more gold companies at that point. All in hindsight. And yeah, it's a beautiful chart. Now, that big down day, it does look like a trend killer event, but it's I didn't sell any gold stocks on that day. I didn't think it was enough of a drop. And the reason I say that is because the rally of gold over the almost 2-month period was really strong. And eventually you got to see a little bit of selling coming in. And we saw that. But the dip wasn't that pronounced. It wasn't. It got to the 25-day moving average, and it started to go up again. So it's a really healthy chart, this one, for gold. No reason to be bullish, no bearish, no reason to be selling all your gold stocks right now. And who knows? It goes sideways for a while. That could be really healthy. Sort of what we saw back between April and September. What's that? For a 5-month period where gold sort of was in this triangle thingy, ascending triangle, I think they call it. Okay, silver. This is what I'm interested in. Up 6.63% on Friday, I assume. And this is the definition of a breakout. Okay, beautiful. Silver breaking out. I know the title of this video right now. Put a line right there. The 2 previous highs, and all of a sudden, what a breakout! What a break! This is the definition of a breakout. Anyway, so up 6.63, and I would almost say when silver actually did break out on Friday, there would be some technical traders who saw that breakout and went, "I become bullish, buy," and that can lead to a lot of buying. And if you have a lot of demand, not enough supply, you get this sort of day for silver. Beautiful day for silver. But the question I have now is, when did it happen? Let's have a look. So that's Friday session. And it does look like, I can see that is the breakout level. And you can see there was a breakout in silver back on Thursday after trading had finished here. And that sort of failed. It came back, sort of fell below the breakout level. And you can see it going sideways. And because it didn't really go much further, it was testing that breakout level again quite often. That is telling me something as well. That is saying there isn't enough bears to push the price of silver, and eventually it's going to break out. And it broke out. Beautiful breakout about Friday, 2 a.m. in the morning, our time. But we did see it rise during our trading. Yeah, we did see it rise, but the real rise in silver occurred after trading had finished. So I would not be surprised to see silver companies on the ASX have a really good day. So some of those silver mines. I'm trying to think. I'm going to have to be bad at silver mines. That chart looks pretty good. Add in silver. Add in silver. Silver stocks. There's another one. I should have a watch list. I have a gold watch list, but not a silver watch list. Here we go. No. iShares Silver Trust. Maybe you could do that. Silver stocks on ASX. Silver stocks ASX. Let's see. DPM, really. Silver mines. And fun enough, the 2 mines I was thinking of are first 2. Sun Silver. Yeah, Sun Silver. Sun Silver. Let's have a look at Sun Silver. This is one I should always remember as well, because it was a listing, back in May 2024. And for some reason, I just remember this name, Sun Silver. What else do we have? South 32. No, I would go for Silver Place. I think South 32 is a little bit more or too diversified. That's it. Surely there's more than that. More, please. So I've got 3 of the 4 that I do know a little bit about. South 32, no. Silver Mines, Indian. That's the one I was thinking of. Polymetals Resources. That was the one. I was very close to taking a position in this a while ago, and I didn't. Polymetals. They did a cup raising, I think. This might be a nice little play. I'm pretty sure they're in production. I could be wrong. I think they're in production. Now, by the way, all these companies, more than likely, the share price will pop up on open. So the share price might not rally during the day, put it that way. But share price of Polymetals up 10.1% on Friday. And for some reason, I do think they're in production. I could be wrong. or maybe they're about to go into production. Endeavour Silver Zinc Mine November update. Oh, operations resume. That's right. They had a. That's right. It wasn't a capital raising. There was a death. Yeah, significant incident. Endeavour Mine. Endeavour spelt without the U. Is it supposed to be U? That's right. There was a death, and that's why the share price dropped. Yeah, on that day. I do think when that happens, that's right. I was thinking about that. I was thinking this is probably no reaction from the market. Sorry, death is terrible. But usually there is a bit of no reaction from the market. Look at the volume increase as well. I'll talk about volume in a second, but the volume has really taken off over the last 4 or 5 months. You're probably able to see that on the weekly chart for this one. Yeah, look at the volume. Beautiful rise in volume for polymetals. Anyway, so there's a few silver companies. If you have any other silver companies like me, not like me to discuss, but you do like, put those into the comment section of this video because, yes. What are we talking about? Silver. Copper. Copper had a good day as well, up 1.5%. So I've been sort of meh about copper, but if you do have a look at the weekly chart, it is rising. If you take away that big down week, and before that was a couple of up weeks, if you take that away, copper looks okay. I'll say just okay. So a nice week for copper. Daily chart looks a little bit better. And the reason I say that is if you do ignore that little positive and negative period in July, copper does look like it's trying to break out. So a little bit more bullish when it comes to copper right now than I have been recently. And that's because it's just the end of the week. So let's have a look at a few copper plays. Sandfire is just insane. Sandfire. This chart looks great. Aries Resources, they did a couple raising to pay down the debt. Chart has been looking good for a while, and look at the volume, increase in volume as well. There is Resources, 29 metals have had problems. All the problems over with? I'm not sure. There's probably a few others as well. I'm going to do that again. Copper stocks on ASX. Aries, there isn't that one called Capstone Copper or something. Yeah, okay, BHP, yeah, okay, I'll give you BHP. No, I want smaller ones. Here we go. Sandfire, Aries, 29 metals. That's the one I was, yeah, and then we have Q Mines, Navarre, and Minerals. I don't know any of these. Anyway, and one of the reasons I do like JetGPT, it says, if you like, I can build a spreadsheet style list of 15 to 20 ASX copper related stocks with ticker, last 12-month performance, risk classification, good for copy pasting into Excel, Google Sheets. Do you want me to generate that list for you? Why not? Yes. Oh, okay. Oh, I thought it was going to be like a... Anyway, let's move on. Iron ore, what happened on Friday? Iron ore down 4.5%. Oh, geez. Weekly chart for iron ore, it's a big meh for me. I've been meh about copper and iron ore. I'm less meh about copper now. I'm a little bit more bullish, but I'm remaining meh about iron ore. What happened on Friday? Why did iron ore drop? Was there something happening in China or something? And iron ore prices dropped. When did they drop? It dropped Thursday at 22.37. Does that mean all the iron ore has dropped a fair bit? I do have an iron ore watch list. So all the iron ore players, no, they did not. Anyway, let's go back to iron ore. Yeah, I just have no interest in iron ore with this chart. No interest at all at this point in time. You don't have to be interested. You can just remain out. This chart is not looking interesting to me at all. What about uranium? Now, this is uranium prices, the futures, I should say, but I just don't like this setup. So I always use Sprott Physical Uranium or Sprott Physical Uranium Trust, which is sort of a proxy for uranium prices. It's a pretty good proxy. And this one, I'm not that interested as well. A little bit more bullish about this than I would say iron ore, because there was a downtrend in uranium. That downtrend came to an end in June, but we haven't seen as much action in this one as I would like. So still on the sidelines for uranium, and even individual companies' charts with uranium, most of them are looking meh. So I do have uranium watch list as well. Palladium is meh. In fact, I did put this uptrend line for Palladium. It broke through that recently. Palladium is meh. Boss Energy is right on a support level. So that makes it a little bit more interesting. And Peninsula, the one reason I like Peninsula is the massive volume coming in, but this has been a disastrous stock for most shareholders, particularly longer shareholders. So those are some of the companies. What about NextGen as well? I always forget NextGen. Probably the best looking chart, maybe alongside Palladium. Anyway, back to technical, or my technical watch list anyway, and oil. Talk about one commodity I have no interest in is oil. In saying that, I do own I do own 2 oil companies, but those are small companies I think there might be value in. That's about it. Oh, and one company I am trading. But when it comes to oil prices, it's a big for me. Look at it. It's nearer the lows. 56 is more of a low. If it drops below 56, my biggest question is why aren't oil prices or petrol prices dropping? The price of oil is down. Weekly chart for oil, and again, if you've never heard me say this, oil prices have done nothing for 20 years. They're at these prices 20 years ago. In fact, if you go to December, the last week of November 2005, the price of oil was at these levels almost exactly. So oil prices have done nothing for 20 years. Gas, a little bit different. This is the weekly chart for gas, and this is a nice chart over the last week. So a really nice breakout for gas. But makes gas more expensive, I suppose. And people are now, a lot of countries are transitioning to renewable energies because price of non-renewable energy is going up. I've seen a lot of articles. I'm reading a lot of articles about this. Not only countries, companies are doing it as well. They're transitioning from the non-renewable to renewable and saving money. And I think that's going to continue. Lithium, according to this, lithium up 6.58%. Oh, what happened there on Friday? Lithium up 6.58%. What happened to all that bearishness when it comes to lithium? Oh, go lithium. Lithium chart. There's a nice lithium chart. What happened there? Why is that in history? Oh, there's a beautiful chart for lithium. Lithium carbonate. Beautiful chart. And I do own 2 lithium plays. Right now, it should be 3. It should be 3. And if you I do have a lithium watch list as well. If you have a look at lithium, this is one of my favorite places, even though I've only got 2 positions. So I do own Pilbara and Core Lithium. Beautiful chart for Pilbara. Liontown looks really good. Core Lithium looks pretty good. One of the reasons I bought Core Lithium is because I have Pilbara and then I wanted a smaller play with much greater upside, which is Core Lithium. And then even below Core Lithium, we have Lake Resources, and the share price of this one has just really gone bananas. And look at the volume. So I'm going to be talking about volume when I get to the individual companies part of the video. Look at the volume. Compare the volume, what we're seeing now, the last 3 weeks, to what we saw this time last. Look at the volume. There was no volume this time last year. So again, share price drifting lower. No interest in the market. Then we started to see the volume increase in July, and now it's just blown up. So there is a little bit more interest in lithium. Agosi is another one. Another beautiful chart, this one. Absolutely gorgeous chart. What is your favorite lithium play? All right, now there's a lot. Morella, I think it's called. Oh, that popped up for some reason. Haven't really looked at that chart. I'm going to look at these charts a little bit more closely. Another one, here's Global Lithium Resource, a beautiful chart there. Look at the volume increasing as well. Gallon, another beautiful chart. European Lithium, beautiful. I've also taken I should also Elevra Lithium. I've also taken a trading position in one. No, I haven't. I forgot. No, I didn't take a trading position in that company. I was thinking of doing that on Monday. European Metals. I think it was called, yeah, European Metals. Was it EMH? Yeah, I was thinking of this. I was just wanting to see what happened with trading. So they got potentially a significant funding from the Czech government. A negative one-day candlestick. I'm wondering if we're going to see a bit of a bounce on a Monday session. Okay, so that's lithium. What is your favorite lithium play? Lithium's, and I have not heard any experts talk about lithium. None are talking about lithium. They all start talking about lithium in probably 3 to 6 months, maybe even longer. And that's the time maybe to sell when they start talking about it. I'm not joking. I am not joking. I've seen this time and time again. Wagner's is a great example. No one's talking about Wagner's or was talking about Wagner's. And then all of a sudden I've seen a few experts talking about Wagner's. What a buy. Wagner's share price took off well over a year ago. And now they're starting to talk about with the share price increasing fourfold. Now we're starting to see chatter. And I do believe experts are really late to the party sometimes, really late, which is why we have I think we can perform better than most fund managers, because a lot of times they're late to the party. Okay, so that's lithium. Now let's go back to coal. So I have one coal play. Coal's like, meh. For me, coal's meh. So maybe I should just transition from coal. I want to be patient, though. I want to be patient with coal. I want to be patient with coal. So anyway, tin's been looking good. Nice chart for tin. Nickel, I don't have much time for nickel. That's the reason why. Palladium still looking good. Nice chart for palladium. So the one company in here that I do know is Zimplats, Zimbabwean, and chart looks okay as well. And cocoa up 7.8%, probably just a little bit of bounce. Okay, so that's commodities. A lot to like there. I love what I'm seeing with silver. I'm liking copper a little bit more. I'm liking lithium and a few others I think have potential. But, well, gold. You've got to like gold still. Onto crypto, Bitcoin. Nice bounce, but is this sort of like a dead cat bounce? Or is the bottom in? I think I mentioned last week there was a really big volume came in on the 21st of November, and I thought maybe that was signaling the bottom. I think maybe we've confirmed that, but we need further upside. We need to see this as a V-shaped recovery instead of just a bit of a dead cat bounce. So yet to see that. Price of Bitcoin now above $90,000, and the volume has died away. So when you see a potential bottom, you want to see the volume remain nicely, and we've seen very little action over the last few days. So maybe that's common on Saturday and Sunday, or this goes to Saturday. Ethereum, it's not the biggest fan of it. Maybe I should just focus on Bitcoin. What about bonds? Bonds, I'm seeing a lot of green when it comes to bonds, although USA had a couple of down weeks, 1.1% down. It looks like it is in a downtrend, but to really confirm the downtrend for the 30-year bonds, we need to see it go below 4.5%. I'm trying to think of any significant, like there was a good labor market announcement, but is there any reason why interest rates might rise in the near future or the next, say, 6 months or so? Less likely than Australia. If we go to the Australian 10-year bonds, this has rallied. This has broken out. And I think the main reason behind that is a lot of the economic news we have seen in the last few weeks is probably hinting that we more likely to see interest rates rising than not. Oh, no, I don't know. Maybe it's 50-50. I have no idea. But I think the chances of interest rates dropping are much lower. Maybe it's like 10%, 20%. And the chances of interest rates rising might be 50%, maybe flat, 20, 30% over the next few months, maybe. But this is telling us a fair bit that, hey, economy in Australia is doing okay now. And there's a chance of interest rate rise because maybe the markets or this Reserve Bank's going, ooh, we don't like this. The labour market's good. Inflation a little bit higher than what we want. So we're going to raise interest rates to put a little bit of a plug on the Australian economy. Japanese 30 years. Remember, this was in the news. When was this in the news? So, oh, that's right. It was in the news last Thursday, 20th of November, and it hit 3.4% and then backed away on the 21st and just went sideways the last 5 days. So still really bullish. Japanese 30-year bonds. And finally, the currency. Is the Australian dollar rallying? Not really, not doing much. You think it's rallying because there's a chance that, particularly if Australian interest rates go up, American interest rates go down, the Australian dollar is more attractive. You get more return. So it's surprising this hasn't really gone up. I'm surprised anyway. And the Australian New Zealand dollar, Ooh, look at that. Australian dollar's had a nice little run recently. It's gone up. And this is what I expected in the Australian and US dollar. There's been a nice rally, and some of this rally might be because of interest rates. I have no idea. Okay, now onto the individual company part of the video. And I've already talked about Lake Resources. I forgot this was in this video. So what I'm going to do is have a look at the weekly chart and just mostly focus on volume. Okay, so this is a company called Verbrek. Okay. This company has released a few, in my opinion, a few positive announcements. And I'm trying to remember what I read. An acquisition. I don't remember that one, but I remember that's why they invested a company, which I thought was a good announcement. And then I acquired something which I thought was good. And this put a little bit of money into their coffers, if I remember correctly. I could be completely wrong. And I think this, and just by reading it, competency training, not a lot of profit in that, margins really low, that sort of thing. So even though I don't know this company all that well, I still, in the back of my mind or the back of my brain, I can remember this company releasing a couple of announcements that I thought were pretty good, and it seems like the market agreed. Unfortunately, ComSec announcements sometimes open up really, really slow. But this video is not about announcements a company makes, but it's good to know the catalysts for why there's interest in the market when it comes to a company. So this is Verbrek weekly chart going back to 2020. No interest between 2020, about 2024. We saw a little bit of interest in this company early 2024, but seems like that was a false dawn. And then they released something really negative on the February this year. So it must have been bad results. Share price plunged all the way to 5 cents. And you can see a little volume, and then all of a sudden, massive volume coming in right near the low. Huge volume coming in, and that volume has been maintained. Just look at this weekly charts. And then the spike in volume on the 3rd of November. So that must have been one of the announcements. So the market really liked the 5th of November announcement. Oh, the acquisition acquires Aliens Automation. The market really likes that. Sort of I can understand that, maybe. But the market likes it. And the massive volume on that day. And I do like this. Even the daily chart looks really good. So this is a possible trade for me because I like the volume, massive volume coming through and a potential breakout. I would have preferred the share price to be above about 15, 16 cents because that would be a long-term high. We're talking about, if you have a look at the weekly chart, the share price actually did get to 18 cents, which was a 4-year high. And I would like the share price to remain above that. But I could imagine the share price of this company keep on climbing because there is interest in this company right now. Okay, and it's based off volume, a good announcement. Best way to say that, I'm not going to say good announcement, a well-received announcement from the market. So this is, I mentioned earlier that when there's very little interest in a company, you just see the share price just drift lower and lower. And we can see that for this company between 2021 and 2024, there's no volume, very little volume. The share price just drifted lower and lower and lower. There's always going to be someone willing to sell for some reason. And if you don't have any buyers, the share price will drop because those sellers will sell on market. And that's how you get the share price dropping. Okay, Lake Resources, I think I've already shown this. Did I show you oh no, this is the weekly chart. Okay, this is really good because I actually did have a look at this and I went back in time. And you can just see there's little pop-up in volumes. This is all the way back to 2017. Look at this pop-up in volume. But this interest in Lake Resources did not last long. Pop-up in volume and then share price just dove away. Then we saw this massive increase in interest in Lake Resources in January 2021. Look at that massive increase in volume, and this was sustainable. Now, there was a bit of a dip, but that's understandable. What a dip. But a very little volume during that dip. That's another really important thing. Look at that massive volume, the share price rose. Then look at the dip. Look at the decrease in volume. That's a dead giveaway that the share price eventually will pop up because, again, it's all about buyers and sellers. There was, each week, there was fewer and fewer sellers, and then eventually there was so few sellers that the share price can't drop, but there was just enough buyers that we saw an equilibrium reached. So this was May and June 2021. Share price hit the 25-day week moving average, and then all of a sudden share price popped up. You don't see initial increase in volume, but eventually you did see an increase in volume towards August. And the share price just keep on going up and up and up. Got to a high of 260. And then crap hit the fan. And you can see a big down week in June 2022 on massive volume. And now we're starting to see the same thing. Look at this big volume coming in for Lake Resources, 3 good weeks in a row. And you can definitely see that just in the daily chart. Look at the volume just picking up. Volume started to pick up back in July, just like a few other lithium companies, if I remember correctly. That didn't really cause any sort of breakout, but that was a sign the market is becoming a little bit more interested in this company. And all of a sudden we saw a breakout back in mid-November. Should have been paying a little bit more attention to that one. Light and Wonder. So this is one I do own. And I think this is the only one I do. Oh, no, I do have another one I own in this list. This is one I do own. But you can see this is a sort of like a aristocrat competitor. They make, what do you call it? The gambling machines, poker machines, that sort of thing. If you don't like that sort of thing, I don't like those machines. I hate those machines. But I don't have any ESG filters. Except for there is one filter I will use, but there will be no company would ever trade on the ASX like a dog meat company. I would not invest in that company. That's because I have dogs. My opinion of dogs has completely changed since I got dogs. Back before I got dogs, yeah, some people in the world eat dogs. That's fine. Now I'm like, Anyway, sort of like Indians coming over to here wondering why we eat cows. But anyway, that's probably one company I would never invest in. Anyway, I wasn't going to talk about this one. So we have seen an increase in volume for Light and Wonder over the last 3 weeks. It also coincided with the bottom, but it also, more importantly, coincided with a really good announcement from the company. So I do own this, and the share price popped up. It would have been the 12th of November. 11th or 12th of November, and the company released results, and it was better than expected or something like that. 12th and 11th of November. Here it is. Yep. Oh, no, it was... Well, it really started the results on the 6th of November. Oh, there it is. Yeah, it popped up. Share price popped up 8% on that day, and then for some reason it popped up 11% on the 11th of November. I don't remember why. I just remember there was some results. Intention to conduct buyback. Anyway, but the main thing is a lot of volume came in on that day, and that volume has been maintained. You might go, oh, not that big volume, but relatively speaking, before that those results and that big update on the 12th, there was nowhere near as much volume. So the volume has really expanded, which is saying to us there has been a lot of buying in this company. And I would say a lot of the buying is from fund managers, which is very important. You want fund managers to be really interested in your company. They ultimately will be the main drivers of the share price of a company over time. Okay, now onto a company I know very little about. A company called Aquarian. I do remember this company listing. I might have looked at this company once. This company had been trading in the channel, looks like, for a long, long time. Share price going sideways just above 17 cents for about 2 years. And then all of a sudden there was one big up week on 20th of January 2025. I'm assuming some really positive announcement, big volume on that day. Share price has kept on going up. And look how the volume has expanded. And the peaks in volume were a few weeks ago when the share price broke out. Share price broke out above the top of the trading channel, and that was on the week of the 6th of October. Share prices remained above that level. There was one big down week. That was actually on the biggest volume week, by the way. But after that, their share price just going sideways. So don't know much about this company, but I do know that this chart is speaking to me. Not literally, because I'd have to go to the mental asylum if that was happening. A few other really small companies, XPon Technologies, listed on the ASX back in 2021 when every man and his dog were listing on the ASX. No interest in this company at all. You can't even see the volume because it was so low, and the share price was just drifting lower. It looks like the share price found a bit of a bottom at around about 1 cent. We started to see a little bit of volume coming in, but not big. And then all of a sudden, some big volume came in on the 5th of May. Share price really did nothing. And now, over the last 4 or 5 weeks, we've seen some more follow-on big volume, and the share price has tried to pop higher. It is struggling, but if you have a look at the daily chart as well, some really nice volume coming through. So something positive is happening to this company. I don't know what, but just based off the chart, positive things are happening. So it's XPon. I won't focus on the most recent Appendix 4C. Maybe it's something to do with that. The most recent pop-up was on the 4th of November, so it's not Appendix 4C. Another company in this space, I always put these two companies together because their ticker codes start with X, XPN, and X2 Connect, X2M Connect. This is another one where they listed almost the exact same time. I think, yeah, 20th September 2021, and XPON listed December 2021, so 3-month period. But that's probably why I put these two companies together. Anyway, X2M Connect, again, no idea what this company does, but a very similar profile to XPN. Share price listed, or the company listed, share price just dropped. No volume, very little volume. But then we started to see volume coming in, starting in June. Now, maybe that wasn't good because the share price did go down that week, and the share price has continued to go down, but we started to see volume, and then the biggest volume week was a few weeks ago. Now, the volume hasn't been maintained over the last 2 weeks, and the share price has dropped. But more than likely, the company did release something the market did like, but there was a lot of selling on that day. So on the 10th of November, the company released something. And you can see that this happened on the 23rd of June as well. Company released something positive, but the market just sold into it. So I'm less bullish about this one, even though the volume has risen, just because there's been a lot of selling whenever the company has released something positive. The question becomes, how positive would it be if the market has sold into it? So less bullish about this one, but the volume is intriguing. And if you have a look, the period between these two volume spikes, the volume has remained there. So the market has remained a little bit interested about this company. So this could be one to put on your watch list. AMA Group. Oh, no, this one is a little bit different. This actually does not belong in this video. But if you have a look at the weekly chart, share price has been in the long-term downtrend for like 6 years. We had moving average crossover. There's not volume related. This one was just a weekly crossover, and the first time you might be bullish on this time frame for AMA Group for a long time, 6 years. Okay, Kaiser Reef, I do own this one, and again, volume speaks all. So this company listed back in February 2020, bad timing there, and look at the volume. No volume, very little volume. 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024. They announced something on the October 2024. I don't know what that was. There was a little bit of volume on that day, but it was sold into because there was a lot of underwater shareholders. Then share price went sideways. Now, not sure if that was the acquisition of their mine, which they're now in production from, was it Catalyst Metals? I thought it was maybe after that. And the reason I bought this is because I saw some value. And I didn't know when the breakout was going to happen, but you can see a really good volume every single week from March 2025, every single week. Compare this volume to what we saw 2022, 2023. No interest in the market back then, but now we have interest, and all of a sudden the share price just popped up, and the share price popped up on the biggest volume week. Well, the two biggest volume weeks. A little bit of a dip, but that's okay. You're going to see dips when the share price goes on run. We don't want to see this dip go any further. And we did see the share price pop up on last week, but that was on low volume. That's my one little, be wary. I would have preferred to see bigger volume coming in on that week. But look at the volume. If you have a look at the overall volume over the last 9 months, it's been really good for Kaiser Reef. EQR, what's this one? EQ Resources. This is another one where, if you have a look at the weekly chart going back, a fair bit of volatility with this one. On occasion, you see little volume spikes, but nothing like what we're seeing now. Look at the interest in this company over the past 2 or 3 months. Massive volume coming in. I don't know anything about this company except the volume and what we saw in the last week, possible breakout. We're talking about a year high. Almost a year high. Oh, yes, we have got a year high for EQ Resources. I don't know why. Daily chart looks pretty good as well. Look at the volume. Beautiful chart for EQ Resources. Maybe this is a lithium company. I have no idea. No idea. But look at the daily volume as well. Domino's Pizza. But I'm going to put this down. I say it looks like a beautiful chart, but I didn't even put it down on my buy list. Potential buy list, put it that way. Domino's Pizza. I don't know why this is on my watch list. On this list. We have seen volume increase over the last 5 months, but it doesn't really fit into the story I want in this video. I have no interest in this increase in volume, but I think maybe the reason why is because I started to hear a little bit of interest among the experts around Domino's Pizza, and I think maybe the rise in volume we have seen is just fund managers. But the big question I have, are the fund managers a little bit too early to the party? there might be value with this one, but Domino's Pizza keep releasing really bad news. So this could be an overreaction from fund managers thinking there's value here, or this could be the sign that the bottom is in, the sign that the bottom is in, because sometimes you will see volume increase when the bottom is close. And maybe that is it for Domino's Pizza. Maybe. Oh, yeah, some of these are in this list just because I see potential value with IPH. It's getting to the 2018 lows. Wow, IPH. I'm just thinking, is there value here? And also, the volume has expanded the last few weeks. If you compare the volume going back to 2021, 2022, definitely some increase in volume. But it's not buying. I think this is more selling. And the share price is at a level where I would think there would be a bit of buying coming in because, hey, the share price is at a 7-year low and at support levels, 350. This is another one where I think there could be value. Maybe the market is overreacting to the downside with IPH. The last one I've got here is Matrix Composites and Engineering. I don't know why I've got this one in there. Maybe this was a mistake. You do see higher volume. Or maybe I was thinking, yeah, there has been a subtle increase in volume, but it's not as obvious as some of these other companies. But there has been a subtle increase in volume recently over the last 6 months. But we saw the exact same thing in February 2023, which there wasn't anything long-lasting. Share price did pull back in this time last year. I don't know why I've included this company in this list. Anyway, that's really all I have for this technical update video. If you have any questions, any thoughts, leave those in the comment section of this video. Otherwise, I'm not a financial advisor. If you need financial advice, make sure you seek out someone who is qualified and can speak to your own financial needs. That's it for this video. Have a good day. Bye.